The Foundry Art Center resides in what was once a train car factory owned by the American Car and Foundry, or ACF. Manufacturing and the railroad industry began work on the site in the 1850s when the first foundry and shops were constructed on the river by the North Missouri Railroad Company. This was at the beginning of railroad fever. The first locomotive arrived in St. Charles in 1856, and these original shops were dismantled just a decade later in 1867 and moved to Moberly, Missouri. The loss of foundry and shops was devastating to the St. Charles economy, and after the Panic of 1873, the city decided to raise money for a manufacturing company. This manufacturing company became the St. Charles Manufacturing Company, and the original facility was constructed in 1874. The site of our present-day building was the Machine and Iron Finishing Shop, the first building to be constructed for the new manufacturing company. By 1886, the company had begun building passenger cars for steam railroads. At this time, the St. Charles Manufacturing Company was building new manufacturing space as it was needed. The future site of our building consisted of a series of structures constructed together almost like additions on a house. And over the next 15 years, development continued. Some buildings were torn down to make way for larger ones, and others were simply expanded or reclad in brick. In 1899, the car company was sold to a conglomerate along with 12 other small companies. And this group of companies became the American Car and Foundry, or ACF. After ACF was formed, it wasn't just the management that changed on site in St. Charles. Physical changes soon followed as the old buildings were torn down to make way for brick structures, some of which remain today. And the company began to construct steel rail cars for all around the world. And this was the height of ACF's influence over St. Charles, as it employed over 1,600 people. In the early part of the new century, ACF undertook its largest construction project yet, the steel shop, and buildings and equipment were cleared to make way for the superstructure, which was completed in 1909. And today, the south end of the building is home to Climb So Ill, a local climbing gym that has another adaptive reuse project in downtown St. Louis at the power plant. During World War I, ACF produced more than 50,000 escort wagons and artillery parts. And after the war, ACF decided to tear down the former machine shop and build a new one. These images from 1919 and 1922 are taken from the same vantage point on the north end of our building. In 1919, the machine shop consisted of a series of buildings pieced together to make one facility. However, by 1922, these buildings had been removed and the new machine shop had been completed. Interestingly, the 1929 Sanborn map lists the date of construction for the machine shop as 1917, despite this photographic evidence that the building was not there in 1919. And this discrepancy has a few potential explanations. At the time of the production of the map, perhaps plans had already been made to remove the older structures and build a new shop. Sanborn maps often noted planned buildings even before construction began because it was important information for fire insurance companies. And it is likely that ACF intended to start construction in 1917 and maybe the project got delayed. In this photograph from April of 1922, torrential rain flooded ACF. And although probably not pleasant at the time, it led to the company taking a series of photographs likely to document the damage. And this particular image shows the flooding on the transfer table. Lucky for us, these images tell us more about what our building was used for. Our building was not only the machine shop, but also the employment office. Based on other photographic documentation, we know that our building was originally oriented towards the north, although today our main entrance is in the south. The main entrance to the building faced the transfer table, which effectively connected the steel shop to the machine shop. From this era, we have in our collection a pay stub from 1937 for the amount of wages for $5.40. During World War II, ACF joined the war effort by producing M3 13-ton light tanks. The parts were manufactured all over the world and shipped to St. Charles to be assembled. And ACF also produced specialized hospital cars for the U.S. Army and U.S. Navy at the rate of one per day in 1944. In 1955, the American Car and Foundry became ACF Industries Incorporated. And shortly after its moniker change, manufacturing was phased out and the last passenger cars produced by ACF were shipped out in 1959. In 1963, the AMCAR division of ACF was moved to ACF here in St. Charles and was responsible for marketing, research and development, and sales. And after this transition, ACF decided to turn the machine shop into the technical center. And the center included a smaller machine shop, bulk handling lab, metals laboratory, computer lab, strain frame, and incline ramp. And all of ACF's railcar designs were tested at this facility, including impact testing, car shaker testing, and much more. Over the next few decades, the Technical Center gradually fell out of use, and in the early 1990s, Grace Nichols, former mayor and later original board member, and Joyce Rosen, a local artist and later first director of the Foundry Art Center, worked together to create an art center for the city and surrounding region. And they modeled their vision on the Torpedo Factory Art Center in Alexandria, Virginia. And the first plan was produced in 1994, and by 2000, these plans started to take shape. The purchase and renovation of the building cost the city of St. Charles $2.2 million. And the facility opened to the public in 2004, featuring an event hall, multiple gallery spaces, children's gallery, and artist studios. The Ameristar Gallery used to be part of the bulk handling lab, which extended the entire extent of our building on the river or eastern side. The other end of the bulk handling lab is now the gift shop. And the machine shop was on the other side, which is today the main gallery. In our grand hall was the incline or impact ramp. Upstairs, where studio artists now are, was the metals laboratory. And as a vibrant home to the arts, the Foundry Art Center was created and continues to raise awareness and appreciation of the arts throughout the region. And our mission is to connect people with the arts through exhibitions, studio artists, performances, and education.